supposed to take it, right?
Mm-hmm.
He's a fantastic actor. He's obviously incredibly accomplished as a wrestler. I think tonight you're going to see in this episode just how great he is. Please stick around afterwards. We're going to have a Q&A. David James Elliott, who plays Tom Spade, is here. Stephen Amell is here. And of course, Bill Brooks is here. So happy that you came out. Thank you. Please enjoy the screening.
Know that they're in Chicago. These guys are making the rounds around the country right now. They're talking to a lot of different audiences. They're doing red carpets. They're talking to a lot of reporters. And when this tour is over, I want them to remember the city that literally just sold out the freaking United Center.
Yeah!
So think of this as a competition for every other city that they're about to go to. I'm going to introduce these guys, and I want you to give them a welcome that only Chicago could. Guys, one by one. Mr. Mike O'Malley. Mr. Stephen Amell.
Yeah!
Mr. Bill Brooks,
How about this guy? Come on, is that an actor?
Yeah!
Guys, welcome to Chicago.
It's great to be here, man. What a great audience, man. You guys are awesome. And how about these actors, man? Just unbelievable.
So I got a few questions for them, and then we're going to turn it over to questions for you guys. So I was going to ask you what it does for your just your acting craft to be able to know that there is in theory someone on the other end of the phone that you could pick up the phone and call and sort of kind of get to.
Well, I mean, it feels weird to no.
You see why he plays Jack Spade so well, right?
It feels weird to. We had this moment on set where we were trying to design the Jack Spade Ricky Rabies fight, and I said to Phil, I said, well, what do you think? And he said, what do you think, Stephen? And I went, no, Phil, what do you think? And it was absolutely exceptional and amazing to have somebody like Phil on this episode. We had one little bit in the fight that we weren't able to do because of COVID protocols. Do you remember this? I was supposed to take Eddie Earl's beer and then spit take. And they're like, nope. So, I mean, to have people like Phil, to have people like Mick Foley, who's in episode 6. Yep. Just really special. Really cool.
Yeah, really having legit guys there, and Phil can talk about it because we did say to him, all right, please. This guy has so much humility. He's such a big star, but he has so much humility, and his authenticity, I'm sure you saw that come out on screen. And we, Michael Waldron and myself, we really continue to write towards that. His heart that was really coming out. That's a big essence of who Phil is. But we asked him, and I don't know, you can tell us now that we shot the episode what we got wrong.
I didn't think anybody got anything wrong, and the way I explain it in the media is, now this is very authentic, but there's a point where we're shooting a television program, and just like Mr. O'Malley said, he wants his grandmother in New Hampshire, their mother in New Hampshire to understand.
And my grandmother in New Hampshire. She's their own.
I hope she's still with us.
She's 125. Great genes, great Irish genes, the O'Malleys.
So to Steven's point, he would say, "Hey, what do you think about this?" And I would be like, "Hey, man, I'm here as an actor. I'm not here as a set designer or anything else because I'm a guest, right? I'm in one episode.
Best in the world.
I don't want to say that's not what it's about, But then, eventually we reached a happy medium where I was like, oh, they're not gonna hate me if I say something, or they're, because I'm picking everybody's brain around me about acting, so it's only fair they pick my brain about wrestling. So I get it. You're sitting home, you're watching, you're a 30-year wrestling fan, and you're like, nobody sits in front of a computer and types it out and writes a script. I think people do that. I don't think necessarily DWL, small town, independent wrestling would, but it struck me watching the first episode how necessary that was to watch, and by the way, amazing performance, to watch him. Legit, when I'm watching it, and I'm watching it with my wife, and she's like, script! Ha! And I'm like, yeah, okay. But then it comes around full circle, and every time he takes the computer out, he pulls it up, and he can't get it out. He knows what he has to do. He's got to screw his brother. He knows he's going to do it, but he can't seem to type it. And it's like, that's such a necessary component in episode 1. And if we didn't do it that way, if he didn't sit down in front of a computer to write a script, you wouldn't get those moments where I thought it was brilliantly acted, where that's the conflict you see. It's between him and this computer, and he's like, I'm just going to go do it, and he can't bring himself to just type it out. And then you see what happens. And so it's like, you're gonna see little, things like that where it gets fudged, where maybe not 100% authentic, but it's a television show.
Character and not David or not Steven.
Yeah, I mean, it happens occasionally. Usually fan mail. I used to get, because I played a Navy lawyer for 10 years on television, and I had people send me their cases. What do you which I felt terrible about, but, I wrote them back and I said, really, I'm just an actor on television. But also, they were screwed. I'm a real lawyer. Yeah, it's not looking good.
Phil, I gotta ask you. This is a question a lot of people probably been wondering. How much do you attribute this show to bringing you back, Matt?
100%.
Thank you, Amell.
Alexander had us
Thank you.
over for dinner when we were filming the last episode, and I finally broke, and I'm like, Phil, are you gonna go back or what?
What did I say?
I don't know. Should I? That's what you said.
Say it.
Yes, you should. Because you can still go. What a joy it was for me as a pro wrestling fan, just real quick, to be in the ring with Phil, and that's it.
And Mike, is there any part of you that sort of says like, hey man, if you're gonna do it, could you do it around the time the show comes out?
Listen, man, I mean, we were talking earlier. He's like the #1 trending topic on Twitter last Friday. He's such a nice guy, and that's what we're trying to bring out in Ricky Rabies, but it's just his essence of what came out very naturally. I mean, we're lucky to be here. I mean, we're here because of Phil, I mean, that's the truth.
But also in my contract, I had it that I was never supposed to be introduced in Chicago before Phil.
I messed that up. I messed up your contract.
Yeah, you have a dispute on your hands.
We have a lawyer here.
We do have a
This question's for all of you guys, because I feel like there are countless baseball movies or countless football movies that sort of dissect the industry. For as fascinating of an industry as this is, there are not enough projects that really do a deep dive into sort of below the surface. We got Aronofsky's film, 10 plus years ago? Why do you guys feel like there haven't been enough projects that really have kind of sort of peeled back the layers of this? Because there are so many different angles you could take.
I feel like, did Vince McMahon want them?
Is that possible? Is that?
It's about time.
Vince,
Yeah.
Vince is responsible for no holds barred. So I'm not saying he blocked them, but maybe.
Phil, I saw that movie on opening.
Did you see it in the theaters? It's a good movie because
It's not
Is it a
just a
good
good movie.
movie?
It's a great movie.
I will say this, one of the things I think is difficult about doing athletic movies is finding actors who are incredible athletes but who can also carry the emotional content of the storylines. I mean, that's what's amazing, I think, about all three of these guys right here. They have the physical stature, they have the ability to present themselves as real wrestlers. They are real wrestlers, and yet they have to carry all of the emotional and the comedy and all of that. That's hard to do, and it's hard to repeat.
It's also, you gotta deal with injuries too, as you had to
Yeah.
during the filming, right? Which
Right.
is, I'm sure the insurance,
You don't know about the injuries that I sustained
yeah.
from you.
from me.
No.
No, not from me. Oh,
David,
from- oh.
this is spoiler alert. Now we can't talk about what happens in the future, which actually happened in the
Wow.
past. But go ahead.
Really?
In the show,
This
Go ahead
stays in
and
this
tell 'em.
theater.
But it is.
Keep it amongst yourselves.
It is something that has to be watched carefully, yeah.
this is a giant man. Okay, he's very, very strong. He had some downtime when we're in Atlanta. And how many hours were you in the gym a day? And have you eaten anything other than salmon for the last 4 years?
Yeah, that's it. No, salmon and gummy bears. That's it. Salmon for lunch, gummy bears for dinner. And I train 3 hours a day.
But we dive into this relationship of Tom Spade and Jack Spade, and in the later part of this season, and they have some harrowing scenes together, and it's amazing. But I don't know. I mean, it was like you know when you were there and you guys were shooting that match over and over again. How many hours did we shoot that? That was.
Well, if you want to talk about a miserable experience, I can talk about it now. But so it took 3.5 hours, depending on if I had one or two people working on me, to cover up all of my tattoos. And go figure, I have more tattoos than I realized, because we would finish and I'd be like, okay, great. And then I'm shooting a scene where I have my pants around my ankles and I'm like, oh shit. I have other tattoos. So I think Kelso's got a great picture behind the scenes when I'm sitting in my actor's chair in between scenes, and I have the COVID face shield on, and I have hair doing my hair, and I have makeup doing tattoos, and I'm taking a COVID test at the same time. So I have like a thing up my nose, somebody's messing with my hair, somebody's putting makeup all over me, and I'm just miserable. I sat in makeup, I think, for 15 hours before we actually did anything physical, and the instant we touched, it just obliterated my makeup, and I was just like, oh my god. But I was fortunate. I was told we have a budget, and they were just going to cover it up in post, and I was like, oh, that's good. But it's not fun sitting around 15 hours of makeup.
All of you aspiring actors should know out there that any tattoo that you get, this especially happened because of the Mike Tyson tattoo that he had in Hangover, where the artist then said, hey, wait, that's my art on his face. I need some money for that. I believe that's how the story went. So now you have to get, if you have any tattoo, you have to get the approval from the artist, from the tattoo artist. Anytime you do anything, you have to have a lot of paperwork.
Some of the people who have worked on me are no longer with us. Some of the people are in jail, so I was just like, fuck it. Just cover them all up. And I honestly, I enjoyed the process of getting them covered up because it helped me.
No, you didn't.
It got me in character.
Well, I just enjoyed being in the ring with you, and then all of a sudden, body makeup would rub off on me, and we would have to reset it. And it was just really nice being in a wrestling ring with you and looking at you, going, "Rookie mistake, buddy."
But here's what we know for season 2, Ricky Rabies is going to become a massive CM Punk fan, and he's just going to get all of the Punk's tattoos.
I think on the last day of shooting, at least for me, we made the joke. I was like, so season 2 opens up with Ricky Rabies just in a tattoo chair. Spent all my money on tattoos, Jack.
I mean, we do have you back later in the season, and I remember saying to you, Phil, just ask for a long sleeve shirt. Just ask.
Well, they brought me back, and I wear a long sleeve shirt in episode 8. So.
You guys brought up COVID, and I don't want to. Everyone's sick of that word.
Questions for you.
This is Michael.
No, let's ask the lawyer.
Oh my God.
How was it?
Yeah, it was. I can tell you, my experience was brutal. I mean, well, we were getting tested every second day when I started, and then by the end, we were getting tested every day. And some people got COVID and they got shut down. And they'd get a false negative, they shut down for the day. They shut down for 2 days. It was. I mean, I was there for this episode. I was in Atlanta for 6 weeks. 6 weeks to shoot one scene. So I ran for. My knees are done. That's why I looked horrible running. You might have thought, what is wrong with that man? It's a terrible runner. And my knees are shot, but I kept running, and then I'd have a week off, and then I'd run a little more. But that's.
Here's the thing. It's the most difficult thing with COVID is that acting is a and producing television shows is about people connecting. How are we going to do this? What's a better way to play it? What's a different moment we can try? What's a different emotion we can play? How do we adjust that from take to take? And it is a very collaborative and intimate process where you're coming up and whispering into somebody's ear, you're saying, hey, try this, away from somebody else so that the other actor doesn't know what's happening. And I want to say this, okay, a lot of people ask, I never had sex with Maura Quirk, okay? I didn't. No, we were just friends. A lot of people want to
I'm
know.
Canadian and I have no idea what guts is still.
We'll get you some episodes. Stephen Amell, spill your guts.
Long story short,
All right.
as performers, because you said you would get letters about legal stuff, is there like when you guys as performers, wrestling, acting, whatever the hell, is there like a tiny voice in the back of your head going, hell yeah, I did my job? Because I just imagine you going, hey lady, I'm an actor for Christ's sake, it's pretend. But what's it like when you get that reaction in the back of your head? Is it like, hell yeah?
Of course, yeah, man. You did your job. And people believe in that deeply. Good Lord. It's also kind of a reflection of where we're at in this world. We're kind of so cloistered in our living rooms. The thing about being on television, different from being in mostly movies, is people feel like you're a part of the family. They'll come and sit down with you at a table while you're eating at a restaurant. Hey, how are you?
I was on television twice a week, 52 weeks a year for 8, 9, 10 years. So yeah, I get that all the time. And there's this vicious rumor out there that I'm hard to deal with and I'm mean. I think because I played a bad guy on wrestling television for so long that people confuse the two, and then there's instances where I'm like, man, I really did my job, but then there's instances where I'm like, come on, man, let me just, I'm out with my wife, let me just eat.
How you doing, brother?
Good, thank you.
I remember being in Bullet Club doing that, so when I saw you, I thought it was amazing that you're going to be the star of the show. Did that, motivate you from, being a part of that, the wrestling at AEW? Well, actually, it was ROH first when you did that. Did that kind of, motivate you to kind of, go towards this script? Because you had, a little bit, I guess you say, in-ring experience a little bit?
I've been very fortunate to get 2 amazing parts, and 3. But people think that I have a lot more autonomy over my career choices than I actually do. I auditioned to play Oliver Queen. I auditioned to play Casey Jones. And I
was offered Jack Spade.
I auditioned for Jack Spade. And I didn't get it.
We're kind of glad.
Yeah. Jack Nielsen, I could have done a good job. Next question.
You said in the build-up to this that this character you're playing is an amalgamation of different wrestling characters that fans who are fans of wrestling may or may not know, that there's a mixture of different people that kind of influence this character. What old school wrestlers kind of influences?
You tell me.
PSA's in there?
Did you say Terry Funk? Okay, yeah, you just named two of them, but there's one big one.
I don't know.
Anybody know?
Stone Cold.
Gorgeous George.
No, come on, guys. You should be ashamed of yourself. Frank, you should be ashamed of yourself. Who's a wrestling fan here?
Everybody.
Nope. Nope. Thank you. The first line I say is, Jack Spade, what's your deal, man? Tracy Smothers would walk into every locker room and go, hey, man, what's your deal? Hey, what's your deal, man? Hey, man, what's your deal? Hey, you working out? You eating small cans of tuna? You swimming? Look good, brother. All right. And Ricky Rabies is Tracy Smothers, you know, and we lost Tracy a couple of years ago, and he was a guy, he was the first name I ever wrestled. I wrestled Tracy Smothers in a barn in southern Indiana in 1999 or 2000, something like that. And he just walked up to me, he's like, hey man, I seen you work, you're good. Listen, I can't remember shit, so don't, you know, is it okay if we just go out there and do it? I can't memorize this and that. We can talk about it, but I'll just forget it. So we just go out there, and I was terrified, because at that stage of my career, I would have to sit down with you and be like, do you want to do this? And then I'll do this, and then we'll go do this. So I went out there, and Tracy knew what he was doing, and I just remember one time in the match, he grabbed somebody's nachos, and he had this, the nacho cheese in his hand. Now, I'm in a barn in southern Indiana. There's no shower. There's no nothing. I drive from Chicago all the way down there, 5.5, 6 hours, and then we get in the car and we drive back. And we're lucky if we get gas money. And he's about to hit me with this, and he goes, block it, hit me with the cheese, brother. And I was just like, fuck yeah. Like, and that's how I learned how to work because of Tracy Smothers. I only wish he was here to see this ridiculous shit, because I think he would love it.
I'm sorry, I have a question. When you came out at Rampage, did you plan to jump into the crowd?
Nope.
Yeah, I have a question for Mike. In the writing process, how did you guys decide where to set heels, like in the timeline? Because I feel like it's like modern, but it can take place in like the 80s or 70s, especially with stuff like wrestling.
Right. So.
What?
The show was created by a guy who grew up in southwestern Georgia, Michael Waldron. He, I think, wrote the initial iteration of this story in 2000. I mean, he started writing it in 2013. That's how long it took to get the right cast and put it together. Michael, very successful guy, is was the showrunner and creator of the show Loki. Is now writing Doctor Strange sequel, and soon to be writing a Star Wars movie.
He's doing okay.
Yeah. So he was not around as much as we would have loved to have had him there because he was in London. But he said it in the world here. There will be later on in the season some references that you'll understand that it refers to right now. It's not set in the 80s. They were trying to show, I think Michael, one of the things he was trying to do is, as you saw with the opening scene in this episode, is that there is, when somebody spends their life dedicating themselves to something, and then they lose that life. What is the burden that's going to put on a family, and especially his sons who also want to be wrestlers? And, you know, what is that decision that this gentleman has made, this character has made? How does that seep into everything that the other guys are doing? And so we wanted to have it that Tom Spade was a person who, when he started this league, he had an opportunity to really make something of himself, but some decisions that he made in his life that we'll go into later on in the season. It unraveled his life, and living with that regret. And so we wanted to be past, you know, the stage where a guy like this really could have, you know, taken what he did and turned it into something. He's sort of past that moment.
I'm so sorry, guys. We're out of time. Chicago, do me a favor. Give these guys a hand.
Thank you so much. Please tell everyone you know to watch the show, to watch it on Starz, Heels on Starz. Thanks so much. Thank you. Chicago. Thanks, guys.
See you next week, sir.